Good morning, Rabbi Isai. Rabbi Isai, here we go. We're in Perek Gid Hanasha. Gid Hanasha, these are the sinews that the Malach hurt Yaakov Avinu, and therefore we don't eat them. The Tanakama says on both sides. The review says on one side. We're going to see today. Rabbi said the good news is we have another beautiful Amud on Amud Beis of Agadata, good stuff, and we have a beautiful, easier kind of sugyas. So we were discussing yesterday that it says in the Mishnah that Hegdish, a carbon, you're over. It seems like you're over the Isra when you eat a carbon. You're over on the Gid Hanasha and the carbon. If you eat the Gid Hanasha of a carbon, you're over on both. And we're trying to figure out, is it both? Is it one? And we finished off yesterday in Tzadik Amud Aleph on top, that what happened was, you're right. The Gid Hanasha develops. That's a good word. I don't know why we didn't use that word yesterday. It develops in utero. It develops in the stomach of the mother later on. So first, it becomes Hegdish. If you're talking about an animal that becomes Hegdish in the mother's stomach, so Hegdish was first. Gid Hanasha came second. However, we do say Isser Chalal Isser. You could add an additional Isser to what you already have. You have an Isser to eat this kachin, this carbon. Well, let's add another Isser called Gid Hanasha. And why? Because it's a very severe Isser. It's an Isser that even Bnei Noach are makbid on. So the 3 lines down, Man Shams Le'Yisvara, who holds that the Gid Hanasha was already also to Bnei Noach? Rabbi Yehuda. That goes according to Rabbi Yehuda. The thing is, and Rabbi Yehuda is going to say, Isser Chalal Isser. When it's such a severe Isser of Gid Hanasha, let's say you have a baby Isser, you have a Isser that's only a 50, kachim, eating kachim. And then you have an Isser that's Gid Hanasha, that's a 90. So there's room for the Isser to apply itself, because it's a larger Isser, it's a greater Isser. They heat up the Gehenim, they put a couple more degrees of temperature. It's more. So since it's more, you could add it. It's Chamer. Because it's a Moisef, not going into that one. It's a Chamer. But who says that? It's Rabbi Yehuda. The problem is, but we're going not like Rabbi Yehuda now. Why? We learned in the Mishnah that Gid Hanasha applies to both sides of the thigh, the right thigh and the left thigh. And Rabbi Yehuda says there's only one thigh. Says the Gemara, you're right. However, I'm going to pick and choose. I hold like Rabbi Yehuda that Gid Hanasha is an Isser Chamor. It applied in the time before Matan Torah. It was already also for Bnei Noach. However, we're going to argue on Rabbi Yehuda. We're going to say that Gid Hanasha applies on both sides, even on the left side. Says the Gemara, when do we say that Isser Chal Isser, that Isser Chomer could apply itself on another Isser? That's when we're talking about an animal that's tamei, like a lion. This Isser lav, to eat its Gid Hanasha, is only a minor Isser of a lav. But kachim, we're referring to a carbon, this is kares. To eat it is a very severe Isser, it's kares mishamsle. So how could you add an Isser? Yes, it's a severe Isser of Bnei Noach, but there's no room for it to go on top of a kares. Kares is very severe. Says the Gemara, okay, you're right. We're going to take it back. We're talking about an animal that's giving birth for the very first time in its life. What is that called when an animal gives birth for the very first time to a male? It's called a bechar. Bechar has Gedusha. But when does that Gedusha happen? It happens only as it's being born. When it's born, not before. It's not Kadosh when it's in the mother's stomach. So, Elohacha bin Vakeres Askinon, the Berechem Kaddish. When it comes out of the womb, then it becomes Kaddish. Now, it's very good. If you hold that the Gidan Nasha happens when it's in the stomach, so you had Gidan Hanasha before, and then afterwards, when it's born, it became Kaddish. So the Gidan Nasha, you're asking, how is he having the Gidan Nasha? Gidan Nasha happened before. But, let's say there is no Gidan Nasha when it's in the stomach. You're not chayiv on Gidan Nasha in the stomach. You're only chayiv when it's born. So guess what? When it's born, two things happen simultaneously. You have the Gidan Nasha, and you have the B'char that happen simultaneously. V'ba'isema, or the pshat is, V'ladis kachim, b'ava yasam v'kdashim. No, we're not talking about a B'char. We're talking about regular kachim, regular carbon. But guess what? A carbon that you're magdish, the baby doesn't become kaddish when it's in its mother's stomach. The same idea that we said by a b'char, but we're going to say by a carbon. The animal becomes kaddish as it's being born. As it's being born, then but here's the thing. The gid was before. We're going to go according to the Manora. The gid happened before. So the kachim doesn't apply itself on the Omer Reb Chir bar Yosef. New sugya. Omer Reb Chir bar Yosef lishanu elo kachim anechalim. This idea that the isser of the gid comes on top of the isser of kachim, that's when it's an edible carbon, like a chatos, a shlamim. Here, let me see if I do have a list. I put it in. So over here you see from the kachim list on the right side, the kohanim eat the chatas, the kid eat a hasham. On the left side, you eat a shlamim, you eat a carbon pesach, you eat a toida, you eat a nazir, you eat a b'char, you eat a meiser. Okay, so those are definitely edible. Aval kachim shein nechalim, what kind of kachim don't you eat? Like an oila. Oila you can't eat. Ein isr gid noig them. You're right. Then you're only over on the isser of kachim, you're not over on the isser of gid. The Gemara is going to say that they don't argue at all. Doesn't matter, even on a oila, there's an isser gid. There, you see, Rav Papa is consistent throughout Shas. No argument. Don't argue. Let's reconcile. What's the word I was looking for? Not reconcile. Let's make a pshara. Let's compromise. Rabbi Yochanan, who says that it's asur, he means to say you get malchus. What you did is asur. Who's the other one? Reb Chir bar Yosef, who says kachim anechalim, he means when there's kachim anechalim, when it's edible, then you're allowed to bring it up onto the mizbeach. So, in other words, what he's saying is that on a oila, this isser of gid is only on animals that you're eating, but on a carbon that you're not eating, like a oila, you're allowed to bring it onto the mizbeach. Some say in Rav Papa himself, there's no machlokes kan lecholtzai. Since an oila is not edible, you don't eat the oila, the entire oila goes onto the mizbeach, you don't have to remove the gidan nasha from the oila. But what Reb Chir bar Yosef was saying is that to put it on to the mizbeach after you took the gid out, you put on the mizbeach. Rav Nachman, we're going to see in a minute. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, la loisai pli. The kol machlokes between Reb Yochanan and Reb Chir bar Yosef is, can you bring this animal onto the mizbeach? Reb Yochanan says no, you cannot. Can't bring the oil onto the mizbeach. And Reb Chir bar Yosef says you could with the gid. I'm saying the sanya v'hikter akoyles hakol mizbecha. It's referring to the oila. You take the entire oila, hakol, everything, you put it on the mizbeach. The rabbis, what does hakol mean? What is hakol? Yeah, you put the oil on the mizbeach. Why? What's everything? The rabbis, ha'atzamos, v'hagidin, v'karnayim, v'atklofayim. All the non-edible parts, the bones, the sinews, the horns, the hoofs. Yachal afidu perishu. I would think even if they were separated, these sinews were separated from the animal. Only the meat and the blood, but no other things like sinews. So it seems to be a contradiction. You said only basar v'dam, and then you tell me put the sinews and the hooves onto the mizbeach. So maybe the pshat is you got to take out all the sinews and then put pure meat onto the mizbeach. It says you should put everything on. So which one is it? What's going on here? Okay, it's that. If the sinews are attached to the carbon, then you put it onto the mizbeach. It will be also for you to take the sinews out. Perishu, or for whatever reason a bone popped out, the sinew popped out. Do not put it onto the mizbeach. Once it's not attached to the animal, it doesn't go onto the mizbeach. Rebbe, who's the Tana that says that if a sinew came out of place, a bone came out of place, you should not put it on the mizbeach? It's Rebbe. How do I know it's Rebbe? The Tanya. That the kohen should bring everything onto the mizbeach. The rabbis, all the non-edible parts, the bones, the sinews, v'afidu perishu. Tanakama says, even if they come out, even if the bone is not part of the meat, put it on the mizbeach. And what about the part of the pasuk like we discussed a minute ago? It says in the pasuk, you should only put onto the mizbeach meat and blood, but not other things. It says, bepoikin. What's bepoikin? So, poikin is pieces of carbon that fly off the mizbeach because of the heat. So says the Gemara, okay, tzad. Ikuli basar atamazir. If the meat was burnt and you're trying to finish up the job, so you gotta put it back on the mizbeach. But if the bones were singed, they started burning and they flew off the mizbeach, then those you don't put back on. And this is what we're looking for. Rebbe Omer, finally. Rebbe Omer, Reba. It seems like the kohen should put everything on the mizbeach. Reba. It comes to add stuff. Because of it says only two things, basar and dam. What should I do? Okay, tzad. If whatever's attached to the animal, all the additional things like the bones, the sinews, the hooves, they go on the mizbeach. Perishu, but once they're disconnected from the animal, then even if it's on top of the mizbeach, you already got there, you're there, take it off. One say, listen, I don't need a pasuk to tell you that if a bone is inside an animal, then you don't have to take it out. Of course. Why? Look at this pasuk. You should put the roish. We showed it many times. We could have shown it again. We have 13 kohanim. Each kohen, one kohen holds the head, the other kohen holds this. You cover it with the blanket of the fat so it doesn't look bad. Different, where the wound is, where you cut the leg off. And these kohanim, they bring it all the way to the top of the mizbeach. One of the things they bring on is the roish, the head. Now the head has a lot of bones. So it says, but yet the Torah says, bring it onto the mizbeach. What is it talking about? That when these extra items became detached from the animal, you have sinews that flew out, you put it back on the mizbeach. Says the Gemara, "V'Rebbe mechubarim de teira leitzich kra l'rabuye." Anything that you're allowed to eat, similar to a head, you don't need a pasuk. Oh, so finally I have Rebbe here that says that I need a pasuk to say that you could put onto the mizbeach the gid hanasha, even though the gid hanasha is also for you to eat, but since it's attached in the leg, so you put the whole thing, you can put it on the mizbeach. V'Rabbanon mimashke Yisrael. So we had this, if you were with us in Zvachim Menachas, the Torah says, not the Torah, the Navi says, Mimashki Yisrael. Mashki Yisrael is Nichaskel. It has to be from a drink that Yisrael would drink. In other words, it has to be something edible, something that's mutter la'achila. Mina mutter Yisrael. So therefore, a gid hanasha, which is not mutter to eat, and not a gid hanasha, that's also. The Rebbe needed to have achila v'dam. Rebbe says no. There are other things that are completely usher, but we put them on the mizbeach, such as, well, if you weren't here for Zvach Menachas, maybe I should show you this. Where was it? Chaylev. The forbidden fats go on the mizbeach. Here, you can see in the top left corner in the bowl, those are fats. They go on the mizbeach. What else did I want to show you? Oh, this also goes in the mizbeach, but it's not mashki Yisrael. The blood, it's not something that the Klal Yisrael drinks. You're not allowed to drink it. Elamai is not a problem. So too gid hanasha, not a problem. Okay, the ikar carbon is zrikas adam. That's the main avoida of a carbon, zrikas adam. Okay, that's the Torah said to do, so that you put that on the mizbeach. It doesn't mean that you should put forbidden things like gid hanasha on the mizbeach. Omer Avuno gid hanasha shel oila cholzah tapuach. So in the middle of the mizbeach, and this is what we're gonna discuss, this tapuach. If you just look at this picture, tapuach is that middle thing, that round mound is called a tapuach. So what I'm saying is that the gid hanasha you have to cut out of the thigh and put it onto the pile, onto the, so to speak, the garbage, the leftover stuff that's in the middle of the mizbeach. You're not makriv, you don't put it on the fire as a carbon, you take it out. Omer Rav Chizda Moridechi. It's like today we say, Rebbeinu shel olam. I don't understand what you're saying. Does it say the mizbeach can't eat a gid hanasha? It says that Bnei Yisrael can't eat, but the mizbeach could eat a gid hanasha. Says don't worry, we're getting to the Haggadah. We're getting there. As it says in Cheskel, there has to be something edible. And since the gid hanasha is not edible, no can do, you can't put it on the mizbeach. Basically, gid hanasha shlomim mechadei la'amo. The gid hanasha of a shlomim, what do? You take it mechadei la'amo. I'm going to show you a video, what that means. There's a little stream that runs through the Beis Hamikdash. You take it, put it into the stream. V'shaloyla, what do you do with the gid hanasha that you're not allowed to eat of the oila, ma'aleyu, and you put it on to the mizbeach. Ma'alav, l'chayra, ma'aleyu l'maktir. What does ma'aleyu mean? You put it on to the mizbeach. Where? You burn it. You makriv it as part of the carbon. Loi, ma'aleyu v'cholza. It means you take it up to the mizbeach. It's like you tease him. You take him up. No, I'm not going to be makriv you. What do? I cut it out and I put it onto the mound, onto the tapuach. Says Gemara, I don't understand. If you're going to take it out anyway, so why do you bring it on top of the mizbech and take it out over there? Take it out on the bottom. There's a whole butcher shop in the Beis Hamikdash. There's a bunch of marble tables where everybody's cutting the meat. Cut it out over there, and then bring it up nicely to the mizbech. Says Gemara, no, you got it wrong. The Torah says, the Navi says, that when you bring a gift to a ruler, you bring a nice gift. You don't bring chopped up meat that you went through with a knife and cut out, what do they call it? arbitrary. Okay, maybe Mark will have the word. So the point is, yes, it's a better cut. It's better for us to eat after, but it's very sloppy. It's cut here, cut there. You want to give the Rebbeinu Shalom a full piece of nice thigh. Yes, it has this, and then on top of the zbech, you cut it out and you put it on. But as you bring it up, you're serving it to Hashem. You're gifting it, so to speak. So the gift should be a nice full tank of a siddur of Huna. Gid ha'nosef v'shlamim, that of the gid ha'nosef v'shlamim, mechabdil ami, you put it into the stream. V'shaloyla, that of oila, cholza l'tapuach. That's a nice piece. Takes out the gid, puts it on the tapuach. Shlamim, the gid goes somewhere else. Look at that. Special for MDY. Avoisai, here goes the Agadata. There was something called an apple tapuach, a round mound. It was smack in the center of the Mizbeach. It says from the beginning of Shas, anytime the Gemara says 300 or 400, it's a language of an exaggeration. Many times in Shas it says he had 300 barrels, 400 barrels, 400 parsa, it shook 400 this, 300 that, many times. And over here the Gemara finally tells us straight out that it's guzma. That it's an exaggeration. That what? There was 300 kur, which is a tremendous amount that doesn't even fit physically on a mizbeach. Amarava guzma. This is an exaggeration. This is another thing that it says. Hishku as a tamid bekoishel zav. They gave water to the tamid every day. They brought the carbon tamid twice, once in the morning, once in the evening. They would give it water to drink so that you could remove the skin easier. So they gave him water from a golden vessel. It wasn't gold, it was copper. So that's an exaggeration. Omarava guzma. It's an exaggeration. It wasn't gold, it was copper. Omar Ravami dibra Torah lashon havai. The Torah spoke a lashon of a simpleton. In other words, an exaggeration. So this is how humans speak. I told you 1,000,000 times not to exaggerate. So the exaggeration. Dibra Nevi'im lashon havai. You see the same thing. The language of the Nevi'im. Dibra Chachamim lashon havai. You see it in the Gemara. Dibra Chachamim lashon havai. Hodamar, as we just said, Chacham said, there's 300 kur on the mizbeach. Dibra Torah lashon havai. The Torah says in the first Orim Gdolos u'B'tzuris Bashamayim. There were great fortified cities up in the heaven. But no, there's no fortified cities up in the heaven. Dibur Nevi'im lashon havai v'tiboka ha'aretz l'kolam. The land split by their voice. So when Shlomo HaMelech became king, he was knighted. He was giving the melucha. So Klal Yisrael burst out in a song. But Tibaka Aretz L'Kolam was so excited, the earth cracked open like a glass cracks from their voice. So that's exaggeration. In 3 different places, Chachamim spoke with a guzma. Elohim, Tapuach, Gefen Uperoiches. Tapuach Hodamar, that there was 300 kur on the mizbeach, that's an exaggeration. Gefen, grapes, Bisnan. Gefen Shazav, Hoisei Mezal, Pischoi Shel. There was grapes that were on the entrance of the Heichal in the Beis HaMikdash, Umudla Gabi Kleintzos, and it was hanging on these beams. The Chol Mishoy Misnadev Gargil Resh, made the toilet bar, and anybody that wanted to donate would put it on that. Or Elazar Tzaddik, Maisa Hoya, There's a story. Again, the lashon of 300 is a guzma. 300 kohanim went and they emptied it. Paroiches, and where's the exaggeration of the paroiches? The snan, Reb Shimon Gamliel Oimer, Mishum, Reb Shimon Azgan, paroiches of Yil Tefach. What's the paroiches? Here we go. Paroiches. The paroiches was the divider between the Heichal and the Kodesh HaKadoshim. So this is ours. It's not that impressive, but I like the way they did the paroiches. It's never open, but there were two overlapping curtains, and nobody would go into the Kodesh HaKadoshim, obviously, only on Yom Kippur, the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur. How thick is this? That's the guzma. Paroiches of Yom Tefach, it was a tefach wide. Val Shivim Ushnaim Nirim Nereges, it had 72 Nirim on the weaver, whatever, the thing that Peres Chaim Levine got us. Val Kol Nima V'Nima Esrim V'Arbachutim, and every string, every rope string is made actually out of 24 smaller ones. Arka, in other words, the height, the loom, thank you. The loom, Arbaim Ba'ama, 40 Amma. V'Rachba Esrim Amma, and the width is 20. Umishmoini Mushtei Riboy Nasis, a Riboy is 10,000. 80 to 10,000. In other words, 820,000 nasis is made of threads. 820,000 threads. And they would repeat this process twice a year. Make it twice a year. And once again, here's the guzma of the Shalish Meis Kohanim, and 300 Kohanim were needed to matbilanoisa. They would put it in a mikvah, and they needed 300 kohanim to put it in. The Vilna Gaon says, how wide is this? This is 20 wide, 40 tall. So that means that it's a total of 40 plus 40, because it's 40 tall. So you have two sides that are 40. That's 80. Two sides that are 20. That's 120. 80 plus 20 is 100, and another 20, 120. 120. That's 120 amos. Says the Vilna Gaon, the am in the Beis Hamikdash was made out of 5 tefachim. So do 5 times 120. It's very easy, because 5 times 100 is 500. 5 times 20 is another 100. So a total of 600. That's 600 tefachim. Yeah, it's 120 times 5 tefachim. That's 600 tefachim. If you have 300 kohanim holding it, because they all want to hold it as much as they can, so it's exactly 600 tefachim. That's why maybe it says 300. Not that they actually held it like that, but that was his cheshbon of how you get to 300 kohanim. But the Gemara says that was a guzma. They didn't need 300 kohanim to put it in the mikveh. Okay? New sugi Rabbi said. B'yerech she'yiminu b'yerech she'smol. The Tanakhama says that the Gid HaNasha applies to both sides of the animal, the right thigh and the left thigh. So the Gemara says like Reb Yehuda, our mission doesn't go like Reb Yehuda. The sign Reb Yehuda, it's only in one thigh. Now, which one, right or left? V'hadas machras, and logic dictates as shel yamin. Das is logic, but the Gemara is not so sure what it means. Das can mean, your brain says it's the right. Ibaylo, Mishnah Chitile Reb Yehuda, is it 100% to Reb Yehuda that's only the right, or one of them? Umay das Torah. So he got this from the Torah. So the Gemara's suffix is it a suffix for Reb Yehuda? And he says it's only one, and I don't know which one. Or he knows for a fact. Umay das noita. Now, what's the svara? So Rashi says an interesting thing here, that when the Malach was fighting with Yaakov Avinu, he grabbed him and he wrapped himself like this. So his right hand came all the way around Yaakov Avinu's body and grabbed his right thigh. He didn't grab the one closer, he went around him. When you go around somebody, came around his back, and Yaakov Avinu was facing him. So Yaakov Avinu's right thigh was next to the Malach's left, and he came around and grabbed his right thigh, and that's the thigh that he injured. Tashma. We're talking about a Korban Pesach. Supposed to eat the Korban Pesach one day, from the 14th through the 15th. Anything left over, night, the 14th, the Leil Pesach, you have to burn. Now, you can't burn it on Yontif, on the 15th, so you wait until the 16th. So, what are you burning? You're burning bones and sinews and noisar left over on the 16th. The Gemara asked, what sinews are we talking about? If you're talking about sinews that have a lot of meat, let them eat them. It's meat, you're allowed to eat them. And if they're left over, and it's at a time that you can't eat it anymore, anything left over, even regular meat, steaks, lamb chops, you won't be able to eat it. It's called noisar. So why are we calling it gidim? Elo, gidit savar. It's those of, here's the sinews in the neck. They're very, very rough, tough, I should say tough. They're not edible. So if they're not edible, ilav basaninu lishdinu. So then what's the problem? Throw them in the garbage. Why do you have to burn it? No, we're talking about the sinew that we're talking about in our sugya, the gidar nash. And it goes according to a review that says the gidar nash is only one type. Now, if Rabbi Yehuda wasn't certain what side, Shapir, it's great. Why? Because since he has a suffix, he doesn't know if it's the right or the left, so you can't eat it. You can't eat either of them, so you burn it. But if Rabbi Yehuda is certain, Lamashal, he said, I know that the one you're not allowed to eat is the right, but the left one you could eat. So what's the problem? If it's the left one, let him eat it. And if it's the right one, the Yisur Lijday, and the left one you should throw out. What was the problem? Why do you have to burn anything? The ones that are edible you should eat. The ones that are mutar b'achila you should eat. The ones that are also b'achila you should throw out. No, he knows for a fact. Let's say he knows for a fact that you're not allowed to eat the right one, you're allowed to eat the left one. What happened was, you put it on the side, you said, okay, this is the left one, I'm going to eat it. But then your kid came and mixed it around. So now you don't know what to do, so you have to burn it. Rabbi Isai, have a wonderful day.
Merit the schutz of spreading Torah throughout the world. Sponsor a shiur today. MDYsponsor.com or sponsor at MDY.com.